The botanical gardens of Nexus Prime Station hummed with bioluminescent life as Ethan adjusted the atmospheric controls for the Delarian orchids. 6 months ago, he'd been just another xenobiologist cataloging alien flora. Then Lysira had walked into his gardens, her deep purple skin seeming to glow in the soft light of the luminous plants, her blonde hair catching the artificial starlight like spun gold. She'd asked about the earth roses he'd managed to cultivate in the alien soil, and he'd fallen completely, hopelessly in love with her gentle voice and the way her violet eyes lit up when she smiled. Now, those 6 months felt like both an eternity and a heartbeat. Every evening she'd find him here among the plants, and they'd talk for hours about everything and nothing, her world, his world, the beauty of life in all its forms across the galaxy. Tonight felt different. Ethan's hand kept drifting to the small box in his pocket, his heart hammering against his ribs. He'd spent weeks researching human bonding customs to explain them properly, wanting to honor both their traditions. The garden's soft chimes announced her arrival, and he turned to see Lysira approaching in flowing robes of midnight blue that complemented her purple skin beautifully. Her blonde hair was loose tonight, cascading over her shoulders, and something in her expression made his breath catch. She looked nervous, uncertain in a way he'd never seen before. "Ethan," she said softly, her long fingers twisting together, "I need to ask you something about human customs. When two people decide to bond, to marry, is it always just two? Only ever two?" The question caught him off guard, but he saw the vulnerability in her violet eyes and answered honestly. "For humans, yes, we marry one person, commit to one person. It's about finding that one soul that completes yours." He pulled the box from his pocket, his own nervousness making his hands shake slightly. "Lysira, I know we're from different worlds, different species even, but these past 6 months have been the happiest of my life. You're brilliant, kind, and when I'm with you, everything makes sense." He opened the box, revealing the simple silver band inside. "In my culture, this ring symbolizes eternal love, an unbroken circle. I know your people have different customs, but I wanted to honor mine when I ask, will you marry me?" For a moment, Lysira simply stared at the ring, her purple skin seeming to darken with emotion. Then tears gathered in her violet eyes, catching the garden's light like jewels. "Ethan, there's something I need to tell you before I answer, something important about my people, about what marriage means to us." But he was already moving forward, too swept up in the moment, too full of love to let fear intrude. "Whatever it is, we'll figure it out together," he promised, taking her hand. Her skin was warm against his, softer than silk. "I love you, Lysira. All of you. Everything you are." She searched his face for a long moment, then slowly nodded, fresh tears spilling down her purple cheeks. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, I'll marry you." When she kissed him, deep and desperate and full of emotions he couldn't quite name, her blonde hair fell around them like a curtain. She tasted like starlight and promises, and when she pulled back, she whispered against his lips, "I hope you mean that, Ethan. I truly hope you mean that." He held her close under the bioluminescent canopy, breathing in her unique scent like exotic flowers, completely unaware that his simple understanding of their future was about to shatter into something far more complex and beautiful than he could possibly imagine. The crystalline Temple of Unity lived up to its name, rising from Nexus Prime's surface like a frozen symphony of light and stone. Ethan stood at the altar, his formal suit feeling constraining as he watched the living crystal walls pulse with soft, rhythmic light that responded to the collective emotions of the assembled guests. Humans and aliens filled the temple together, his diplomatic colleagues looking curious, Lysira's people watching with warm approval, and something else in their expressions he couldn't quite read. His best friend, Marcus, the human liaison officer, stood beside him as best man, occasionally squeezing his shoulder for reassurance. The officiant, an elderly member of Lycera's species, with silver-streaked blonde hair and deep purple skin lined with age, smiled knowingly at Ethan from the altar. Everything about this moment should have been perfect, but a strange, nervous energy hummed through the gathered crowd, and Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that everyone knew something he didn't. Then the temple's great doors opened, and Lycera entered, and every thought fled from Ethan's mind. She was absolutely breathtaking in her ceremonial garments, layers of shimmering fabric that seemed to shift between silver and gold, cut to drape elegantly over her purple skin. Her blonde hair had been braided with luminous threads that glowed softly, woven through with tiny crystals that chimed musically with each step. She moved with ethereal grace down the aisle, her violet eyes locked on his, and he felt his heart swell with so much love it almost hurt. But as she drew closer, he noticed the tension in her shoulders, the way she kept glancing toward the side chambers of the temple. Her purple fingers trembled slightly as she took his hands at the altar, and he squeezed them reassuringly, trying to silently tell her that everything would be all right, that they were in this together. The officiant began speaking in both languages, her voice resonant and formal as she described the sacred nature of bonding, the commitment they were about to make. Ethan listened, trying to follow both the translated words and Lycera's increasingly anxious expression. The elders spoke of the sacred three and completing the triad and joining not just hearts but the entirety of being, and Ethan assumed it was poetic language, metaphorical phrases from a culture that viewed love differently than humans did. He focused instead on Lycera's beautiful face, on memorizing this moment, the way the temple's crystals cast dancing lights across her purple skin, the way her blonde hair caught every shimmer and glow. "Ethan," Lycera said, her voice shaking slightly as she squeezed his hands, "I need you to understand what you're truly agreeing to. My people, we don't bond the way yours do. We—" Before she could finish, the temple's crystals suddenly flared brilliant gold, so bright that several guests gasped. The side chambers doors opened simultaneously, and two more figures emerged, moving in perfect synchronization towards the altar. Ethan's breath caught in his throat. They had the same deep purple skin, the same blonde hair, though styled differently, one with hair cut shorter, framing her face in soft waves, the other with hair pulled back in an intricate braid. Their features were similar to Lycera's but distinct. One had higher cheekbones and moved with confident, almost predatory grace. The other had softer features and walked with quiet, contemplative steps. But their eyes, all three pairs, were the exact same shade of violet, and in that moment they all turned to look at him with identical expressions of hope and fear. The confident one, Lycera but different, somehow more intense, wore robes of deep crimson that clung to her curves, while the contemplative one was dressed in flowing silver that made her seem almost ethereal. They reached the altar and stood on either side of his Lycera. His Lycera? And then all three spoke in perfect unison, their voices harmonizing into something hauntingly beautiful. "We are Lycera. We are one soul, three hearts, seeking to bond with you." The temple erupted in brilliant light as Ethan's world tilted on its axis, and he realized with stunning clarity that he had fundamentally misunderstood what he'd agreed to when he proposed in the gardens under the stars. Ethan stumbled backward, his mind reeling, unable to process what he was seeing. The human guests erupted in confused murmurs, while Lycera's people watched with calm approval, as if this was exactly what they had expected. Marcus grabbed his arm to steady him, whispering urgently, "What the hell is going on?" But Ethan couldn't answer, because the original Lycera, the one he'd proposed to, the one he'd spent 6 months falling in love with, stepped forward with tears streaming down her purple cheeks, her violet eyes pleading. "Ethan, please let me explain," she said, her voice breaking. "I should have told you sooner. I tried to tell you in the garden. I tried tonight, but I was so afraid. My species, we're not born as individuals. We're born as trio souls, 3 bodies sharing one consciousness, one set of memories, one destiny."
The confident one, Lycera but different, somehow more intense, moved closer, her crimson robes swirling. When first met you in the gardens, we all met you. When she fell in love with you, we all fell in love with you. We don't take turns experiencing life. We experience it simultaneously, together, as one person perceiving existence through 3 different perspectives. The contemplative one, dressed in flowing silver, added softly, "Think of us as 3 facets of a single diamond, 3 instruments playing one song. What one of us feels, we all feel. What one of us knows, we all know. We are not 3 separate people who happen to share thoughts. We are one person who happens to have 3 bodies." Ethan's scientific mind struggled to grasp the concept, even as his heart hammered with confusion and something that might have been wonder. "So you're what, a hive mind?" The original Lycera, first the confident one had called her, shook her head desperately.
The reception had been a blur of congratulations and curious questions, but now, finally, they were alone. Lycera's home was designed for trio living, a spacious dwelling with 3 distinct personal alcoves surrounding a central living space, each reflecting different aspects of her personality. First's alcove was filled with botanical samples and soft cushions. Second's contained exercise equipment and bold artwork. Third's held musical instruments and shelves of books. Ethan stood in the center of the main room, suddenly very aware that he was now married to someone's? He was still learning to understand. The awkwardness hit him all at once. Where should he sit? Who should he talk to? If he focused attention on one, would the others feel ignored? His new wife, stood together near the window, their different personalities evident in their postures even though they shared one consciousness. Second laughed warmly, breaking the tension, her crimson robes discarded for comfortable clothing that still managed to look striking against her purple skin. "We're not going to bite, Ethan." "Well, not unless you ask." First's skin darkened with an embarrassed blush, and she swatted Second playfully on the arm, a gesture so familiar, so normal, that Ethan felt something unknot in his chest. "Stop teasing him," First said, though she was smiling. "This is overwhelming enough without you being you." Third, dressed in soft silver loungewear, guided him gently to the large, curved couch that dominated the living space. "Come, sit. Let us explain how we work, how we love. It will help." As they settled around him, First curling close on his left, Second sitting confidently on his right, Third choosing a cushion at his feet, they began to explain their nature in ways the ceremony hadn't covered. "I am emotions and empathy," First said softly, her blonde hair falling across her shoulders. "I feel deeply, connect with others, understand the heart of things." Second stretched like a cat, her shorter blonde hair framing her face perfectly. "I am passion and courage. I act, I challenge, I push forward when we might otherwise hesitate." Third looked up at him with those violet eyes that seemed to hold ancient wisdom. "And I am introspection and creativity. I analyze, I dream, I find meaning in patterns others miss." "But we're not 3 different people who coordinate," First continued, taking his hand. "We experience everything together, simultaneously. Right now, as I hold your hand, Second feels your warmth, Third feels your pulse against our skin. We're not taking turns being Lycera. We are Lycera, together, always." Ethan's scientific mind began to grasp the beauty of it, even as his heart struggled with the implications. "So when I touch one of you, talk to one of you, we all feel it," they said in unison, then laughed at their own synchronization. Second leaned closer, her purple skin nearly touching his. "When you kiss one of us, all 3 hearts race. When you hold one body, all 3 feel cherished. When you make love to one," she paused as First blushed deeply again, "all 3 experience that intimacy completely." The intimacy of it staggered him. Complete transparency, total connection, nothing hidden. "What if I can't love you equally?" he admitted, voicing his deepest fear. "What if I favor one body over the others?" All 3 laughed gently, and the sound harmonized in a way that made his heart ache. First squeezed his hand. "You can't favor one of us, Ethan. We're not in competition because we're not separate entities. Whatever you feel for any body, all of us feel. The love doesn't divide, it multiplies." Second moved even closer, her confident energy palpable.
But we each express that shared love differently. I'll challenge you, push you to grow, keep life exciting and passionate. Third added from her cushion, her voice like silk. I'll understand you, create beauty with you, help you see the poetry in existence. First concluded, turning his face towards hers with gentle purple fingers, and I'll cherish you, comfort you, be the softness you need after hard days. Together, they said in unison, their violet eyes all locked on him, we'll love you with everything we are. 3 bodies, 1 boundless love. The evening unfolded naturally after that, conversation flowing easily, laughter coming freely, the initial awkwardness melting away like frost in sunlight. They shared a meal they had prepared together, moving in unconscious synchronicity that was fascinating to watch. First asked about his day, his dreams for their future. Second challenged him to a strategy game and grinned when she won. Third played soft music on a stringed instrument that sounded like starlight given voice. As the night deepened and Nexus Prime's artificial stars glowed through the windows, First curled against his side on the couch, her blonde hair spilling across his chest like silk. Second sat close on his other side, her purple fingers interlaced with his, her touch warm and sure. Third remained nearby, watching with soft eyes, and Ethan realized she was already feeling everything her other selves experienced, the warmth of his body, the steadiness of his heartbeat, the love beginning to bloom past his fears. I think, he whispered into the comfortable silence, I'm the luckiest man alive. 3 times the love, 3 times the beauty, 3 times the brilliant conversation. First tilted her head up to look at him, her violet eyes shimmering. We're the lucky ones, she whispered back. We found someone brave enough to love all of us. When she kissed him, it was tender and deep, tasting of the exotic fruits they'd shared at dinner and something uniquely her. He felt Second's hand tighten on his and knew she was feeling the kiss too, feeling First's joy and his response. Third made a soft, content sound, experiencing everything from across the room. As First pulled back, slightly breathless, Second caught his chin and turned his face towards her. My turn, she murmured with that confident smile, and her kiss was different, more intense, more demanding, igniting something fierce and warm in his chest. When she released him, Third had moved closer, her silver clothing catching the light. And mine, she said softly, and her kiss was contemplative, deep with meaning, like a promise written in starlight. 3 kisses, 3 expressions of love, but all from the same beloved soul. Ethan felt his fears melting completely as they rose together, First taking one hand, Second the other, Third leading the way towards their shared chamber, and he understood that tonight he wouldn't be with 3 different people, he'd be with one extraordinary being who loved him enough to share all of herself, holding nothing back. The door closed softly behind them as Nexus Prime's artificial stars wheeled overhead, blessing a union that transcended everything he'd thought he knew about love. 3 months had passed, and Ethan awoke as he did every morning now, surrounded by warmth and the soft sound of synchronized breathing. First was curled against his left side, her blonde hair tickling his shoulder, one purple arm draped across his chest. Second had claimed his right side, sleeping in her characteristic bold sprawl, her leg tangled with his. Third was pressed against his back, her breath soft against his neck. 3 bodies, 1 deep and peaceful sleep, 1 soul resting beside him. He lay still for a moment, marveling at how natural this had become, how what once seemed impossibly strange now felt like the only way love could possibly be. The morning light of Nexus Prime filtered through the windows, painting their purple skin in shades of lavender and violet, catching the gold and silver in their blonde hair. As if responding to some shared internal clock, all 3 began to wake simultaneously, violet eyes opening in sequence. "Good morning," they murmured in harmony, and the sound made him smile every single time. They rose and moved through their morning routine with that unconscious synchronicity that still fascinated him. First started the tea exactly the way he liked it without asking. Second queued up their morning news briefing. Third left a small handwritten poem on his datapad, as she did every day. He'd learned their rhythms, understood now that their different expressions weren't separate people, but facets of one gorgeous whole. First was the nurturer, always ensuring he ate enough, slept enough, felt emotionally supported. Second was the challenger, pushing him to try new things, keeping him sharp with debates and playful competition. Third was the creative, showing him beauty in unexpected places, helping him see the poetry in existence. First concluded, turning his face towards hers with gentle purple fingers, "And I'll cherish you, comfort you, be the softness you need after hard days." "Together," they said in unison, their violet eyes all locked on him, "we'll love you with everything we are. 3 bodies, 1 boundless love." The evening unfolded naturally after that, conversation flowing easily, laughter coming freely, the initial awkwardness melting away like frost and sunlight. They shared a meal they had prepared together, moving in unconscious synchronicity that was fascinating to watch. First asked about his day, his dreams for their future. Second challenged him to a strategy game and grinned when she won. Third played soft music on a stringed instrument that sounded like starlight given voice. As the night deepened and Nexus Prime's artificial stars glowed through the windows, First curled against his side on the couch, her blonde hair spilling across his chest like silk. Second sat close on his other side, her purple fingers interlaced with his, her touch warm and sure. Third remained nearby, watching with soft eyes, and Ethan realized she was already feeling everything her other selves experienced, the warmth of his body, the steadiness of his heartbeat, the love beginning to bloom past his fears. "I think," he whispered into the comfortable silence, "I'm the luckiest man alive. 3 times the love, 3 times the beauty, 3 times the brilliant conversation." First tilted her head up to look at him, her violet eyes shimmering. "We're the lucky ones," she whispered back. "We found someone brave enough to love all of us." When she kissed him, it was tender and deep, tasting of the exotic fruits they'd shared at dinner and something uniquely her. He felt Second's hand tighten on his and knew she was feeling the kiss too, feeling First's joy and his response. Third made a soft